Hello and welcome to the Key Hire Solution Show for Small Business. I am Corey Harlock, creator of Key Hire, and today our topic is going to be how to motivate or address underperforming employees. But before we get to that, I just want to welcome to the live stream here. If you like what you're hearing, as they say in the biz, pound that like button or give it a like, give it a share, do something for us. If you like it, show your appreciation. If you want to catch up on past shows we've done, you can always check out our podcast. Matt, I might be catching you off guard, but you can check us out on the podcast. We're on all the major providers, believe it or not, which is very cool. So you can listen to it in the car while you're driving. You can always go to our LinkedIn page and like us there. And most importantly, if you have any questions that come up while we're doing the show today, please drop them in the comment section. We want to know what you out there want to hear, or even if you have a topic for a future show, drop it in there. We'd love to hear it. What is Key Hire? Key Hire is a talent strategy and acquisition company designed specifically for small businesses. 5 to 80, 100 employees, 5 to 100 employees, $5 million to $25 million in revenue. Essentially, what we help you do is build leadership teams. Whether you're upgrading a current role, you need to develop a new role, or you have some growth on the books and you need to, your leadership team needs to evolve and we need to add layers. We can help you do that and put the strategy together for you to help you do that as well. So underperforming employees is a huge, huge issue right now. People want to talk about Gen Y, Gen Z, all this craziness. And we're just going to talk in really kind of sweeping generalities today, because 15 minutes isn't going to be enough time to really get too deep in the weeds, unless, of course, you have questions that are real specific, then we can jump into those. But I think the first thing we need to do is define what is underperforming. Hiring good people or hiring people you think are going to be great will never compensate for bad management and bad leadership. We talk to people all the time. They say, if I can just make this one hire, everything will be great. And it's not, I always make the analogy, we're not trying to hit a home run. One hire is not going to save the day and make your life easier. It's really 4 singles. We got to do things in succession. We got to give them time to grow. We got to nurture that growth. And we have to, when we hire someone, set them up to succeed and understand what are the objectives of that role. Oftentimes, when we look at an underperforming person and we talk to a business owner and say, why are they underperforming? They start listing a bunch of things that aren't being done or aren't being done correctly. But maybe they were hired and they didn't have experience to do that. And then we didn't train them. Then we threw a bunch of extra stuff on their plate. And then we say they're underperforming, when the reality is maybe it's us who's underperforming as a leader. So that's the caveat as we get into this today. So there are really 3, again, sweeping generalizations here, but there are really 3 categories we're going to look at today in terms of underperforming leaders, employees, whatever you have. So number 1, we could have hired the wrong person. Number 2, we could have the right person, but in the wrong seat or doing the wrong jobs. Or the people we have could be lacking the capacity to do their job, meaning our business may have outgrown their ability. So let's kind of go back to the beginning. So if we look at, we've hired the wrong person. Now, if you've been listening to this show, you'll know that I preach using a correct and consistent hiring process. And if we use the right process, we are never going to bat 1,000. Lots of baseball analogies today. I guess the playoffs are on. We're never going to bat 1,000 because we deal with people, and there is lots of stuff that go on. There are a lot of variables with people, but what we always want to do is maximize our probability of getting it right, and putting in a defined and consistent, using the correct process to hire someone will certainly maximize the probability of hiring the right person. So what does it mean when we hire the wrong person? Well, I think there's 3 kind of areas here. And we've talked about this before. If we hire usually the least expensive option, that means the least amount of experience, because experience has value. And so we're hiring on potential. And when we hire on potential, that means we're hiring someone who doesn't really know what we do or have a breadth of experience in the world we walk in. And when we hire on experience, the ROI is long tail. It's going to take a while to get your money back out of that person. So the wrong person could be, we need immediate results, but we hired on potential, and we haven't even given that person a chance to deliver, because we wanted results immediately, but this person isn't capable of doing that. Fred, thanks for the comment. I agree. He says hiring the wrong person can kill your business. 100%. We're going to get to that. The second thing is maybe we hired someone who has a ton of experience and they can do the job, but they're not a culture fit. And this isn't PG, so we can say this, but we never want to hire the high performing asshole. Simon Sinek said it right. He said, if you want to know who that person is in your business, just ask your employees. They'll all point to the same person and say, that's it. We never want someone who's really good at their job but a bad culture fit. If you look at that old 4-box diagram where you have experience up one side and then you have culture fit across the bottom, you always want to hire for that, top box. But if you can't get the experience you want, always hire culture, and you can train the experience. You cannot train people to be a culture fit in your business. My background, future life, used to be in hospitality. And when we hired people to work at the door, if on their first day or first week, you had to go and tell them, like, hey, you look angry, like smile. You can't teach someone how to smile. If they're just looking angry all the time, they're just going to look angry all the time. So you can't teach someone to smile consistently. They can do it for like 10 seconds at a time, but eventually they're going to go back to that resting grumpy face, right? So that's the other thing. So the wrong person. So if we're going to hire on experience, make sure you run the right process to make sure they're a culture fit. Never roll the dice and say, look, I just need this experience in my business today. I don't care if they're the culture fit I need, because that will do incredible damage to the business for sure, right? Eventually, all your good people will leave and you'll be stuck with that person you probably shouldn't have hired in the beginning, and now they're holding you hostage because they know how valuable they are. That's a whole other show. We'll get to that one day. So we've hired the wrong person because we didn't have the right process and we didn't understand the role we were hiring for in the first place. We didn't do our diligence. We thought, well, we kind of need someone with this rough experience. Let's go out and hire. And I know the importance of that is because with Key Hire, that is the biggest part of the work we do, is really getting in and understanding. If you want to maximize the probability of making the right hire, you have to understand what you're hiring for, what your talent gaps are, what your constraints are, and what talent equity you actually have in that department or in that role or in the business. That's a huge, huge thing. Okay, moving on. So we've hired the wrong person for whatever reason. Generally because we didn't do the work up front. We didn't understand what we were hiring for. We didn't have the right process in place, and we didn't make the right hire. That's on us. Number 2, we have a great person who's been in our business, but they might be in the wrong seat. So how do we know if someone is in the wrong seat? And thank you, Priscilla. Appreciate that. So if someone is in the wrong seat, it might be we have someone who's a real go-getter. We hired them on potential, and they're out there. They're doing a bunch of work for us. And hey, this person is really good. I think we should get them to do some extra work. But what we often do is when we start stacking this work onto our high-performing individuals, we don't take the time to consider that the work isn't aligned. And what I mean by that is we might have someone in our accounting department who is very detailed and likes process and likes procedure, but is really active on social media. So we think, hey, we should get them to run our social media. They seem to really enjoy that. And what happens is those two duties, being an accountant or dealing with numbers, receivables, payables, whatever it is very detailed and process driven. And then we put them into a social media role where now they're having to be very creative. And I call that we're breaking their neck. We're making them do a 180. So we're starting our day here, and then we're making them turn all the way around and look the other way to do the rest of their job. And one of three things is going to happen in this scenario, generally. Stop me if you've heard this before. But so number one is the job they were hired to do, they would still do a great job at, or they'll do an okay job at. It will be diminished a bit, but they'll keep doing a good job there, and you will be totally unhappy with the social media or the other role you've given them. Number two is the role you've given them will really take off, and they'll do a great job at that, but the role they were hired for will suffer. But the most common thing that will happen here is both roles will suffer, because it's hard to be in a process-driven role and then into a creative role and back to process and back to creative. It takes a long time for you to adjust, and to do either of those well, it's hard. And so what's going to happen is you're going to say, this person, they were so good in our administration, at the administration side of the business. And then they said they wanted to do this other job, and now, their performance has suffered. I don't know what's happened. Well, what happened is again, the leaders pushed them too far and didn't consider aligning the duties that they have. So again, what do we do here? What's our solution, right? We got to get them in the right seat. Now, if they're an all-star and they're really rocking the social media side of your business and they're loving that, then maybe we look at reinforcing and hiring or getting a temp or outsourcing the administrative side of their work and give them more on the marketing side. Right now, we just, instead of having someone who is doing accounts payable, now we have a marketing coordinator that we probably needed to hire for anyway, and we can bolster that position a bit and backfill the old role. Or they say, I'm not down with this social media. I'm not enjoying it. It feels a lot like work to me. I'd rather just be on the administrative side. Well, that's great. Let's put them on the administrative side, see what other duties we can add to them over there. Maybe they could take on payroll or benefits admin or whatever that is that could help us on the administrative side, and then find an alternate resource on the social media, right? We can outsource that. We can hire a temp or a part-timer. We can bring someone in full-time. So we need to understand when we have someone who is really performing well, and because they were performing well and they were asking for more, we heaped it on them. Now their performance is suffering and the results they're delivering are suffering. That could be on us, right? That could be our mistake. So we need to go back and have a conversation with them and say, hey, I've noticed some things going on here. Is it too much? Are you having a hard time with the transitions? And then just another footnote here is also when a great employee's performance dips, we don't know if they don't have things going on at home. And this comes up more often than you think, but take the time. Again, it goes with the conversation. You might say, hey, I've noticed your work has suffered a little bit. You don't seem as happy as you used to be, or, you're seem to be struggling. What's going on? They might say this social media is too much for me, or I just really want to focus on social media. I want to do this. Or they might say, I got some stuff going on at home, or I got some health stuff going on, or I got some relationship stuff going on. And as empathetic leaders, it's super important for us to understand that and help them through that. As much as we say, don't bring your personal life to work, when big things are going on in your world, it's hard not to bring them to work. And helping people through that will only build their loyalty and trust in you. And when they're back on track, their performance will be even better. So there's a couple things in there. We got a great person, they're on the wrong seat, / they got stuff going on in their life that we need to know about. So the way to motivate them and get them kind of out of the funk is understand, where do we need to put them? Are they in the right seat at the end of the day? Or are they in too many seats? And how can we focus their abilities and skills? Number 3, I'm going to get fancy, Matt. We talked about this. I'm going to try to present here. I want to show you guys. This is a little thing called Greener's model curve. Hey, look at that. There it is. And Greener's model curve kind of outlines the 5 crises of that happen within the growth of a company. And key hire works right here. The first crisis, and it's called the crisis of leadership. Now let me kind of walk you through that. So this goes from a company is young and creative and entrepreneurial, and the first crisis they hit is a crisis of leadership, which helps them transition into direction. So a crisis of leadership doesn't mean they have bad leaders. It means they don't have enough leaders. This crisis of leadership is where a business owner, everyone is their direct report. I had 5 employees, now I have 10, now I have 20, and they all just come to me when they need something because I know what's going on. Spreads the leaders very thin. Everyone's got their fingers in a lot of pie. Well, I do sales, but I help with production, and I do production, but I help with marketing, and I do marketing, but I help with sales, and on and on and on. And everyone's doing everything they should be, because when you start a small business, that's what you do. Everyone helps out wherever they can. But this is a transition. This crisis of leadership really represents a transition where now we're adding that layer of management in, right? And this is where we work a lot with our business owners, because we want to minimize the number of direct reports, and it's a big shift for a business owner. We want to minimize their direct reports and add leadership in and create that organizational structure and that reporting structure. So now this group of people will report to manager A, this group of people report to manager B, and manager A and B report to owner. And the reason I bring that up is a crisis of leadership often happens when your leaders or your key people run out of runway or capacity, which means the business has outgrown their abilities. They don't have any experience left in their tool belt. They have no more tools in their tool belt. All they have is a hammer, and we need more than a hammer now. And they don't know what to do about that because they don't have any resources to draw upon. And it's hard. It's a horrible place for your key person to be. This is often a manager who used to be great, who is now struggling. They might be missing deadlines. They might be blaming other departments when they never used to do that. They might be really short and grumpy, short-tempered and grumpy. They might start micromanaging the people they never used to. You might start hearing rumblings about them from other people, how they're not playing nice in the sandbox. And this is the toughest situation for a business owner to deal with. It's the hardest one for them to understand and recognize, for sure, to say, this is my friend, this loyal person, my family member who's been with me for 10, 12 years, for the good times, the bad times. We slept at the shop together. We've done all that. And then for the business owner to say, but they got me here, but I don't think they can get me there. Worst situation for a business owner to be in, and worst conversation a business owner will ever have, bar none. So what can we do when this top leader is struggling? And there's a few things we can do. Number one is we can offer to get them help. You can get them a coach, but again, long tail, right? You can get them coaching, but it depends how quickly. I mean, if you're scaling and growing, coaching will not scale this person up fast enough. They won't be able to keep up with the curve, right? They won't be able to match the growth of the company. But that's an option. Number two is you can go get someone outsourced fractionally to go and help you lead the business and help develop that person. Now that again, will get them moving in the right direction, but limited resources again. So what do you do when that fractional person isn't there? It depends on the growth of your company and how quickly you want to scale this roll up. Or number three is you hire an internal resource, meaning you hire a manager above that person and someone who has the capacity, who comes from a larger business, who understands where you are and where you want to go and can scale that up. That's hard to go to someone who's been a loyal soldier and say, I need to hire you a new boss because your performance isn't there. And I don't think you have the tools you need, but I want to get those for you. And when we get to that point, you're really only going to have three choices at that point. Number one is you can say, hey, you can work with this new person and, we'll get you up and ready to take that next step. And that might happen, but that is usually not what happens, because they're going to be upset. They're going to be hurt. Their feelings are going to be hurt. They're going to feel a little betrayed. Number two is, you can say, we can move you to a different role in the company and hire someone to replace you. And, we can communicate that in a way that it doesn't, make you look bad. And we can kind of put together a communication that works for both of us. Or number three, you can say, and if you don't like either of those options, start looking for a new job, and I'll be happy to be your a reference for you, and talk to anyone who wants to employ you to help you kind of facilitate that move, right? We owe that to them at least. That is the worst situation. But if you have a leader who's suffering, that could be what's going on. So this is usually someone who, started off as a line worker in our shop, and they showed up every day and they're responsible. So we promoted them to a supervisor, and then they became a manager, and now they're leading the shop. But the only experience they have is when our shop was $5 million, and now we're at 15. And they just don't understand what it takes to build process and procedure that will help the business scale. I want to thank everyone who joined us. I think we had one of our biggest RSVPs to our show yet. This will be up on the podcast, I think, next week, or we'll have a new show up next week. I don't know if it's this one or not. So please check us out on there on all the major podcast providers. You can check out all of our videos and previous live streams on YouTube. And you can like our LinkedIn page and keep up to date on what we have going on. If you like this and enjoyed it, please hit that like button and share it with someone who you think would be valuable. If you are having talent, you need to talk about talent. Underperforming managers, you need to upgrade a role. You're thinking, I might need a new position, or I just don't understand why these people aren't performing the way they used to. Give us a call. On our website, we have a free consultation. No weirdness, no sales, just help. We're happy to spend a half hour with you and pick your brain, learn what's going on in your business, and make some suggestions on how you might be able to tackle that. If you like what you hear, maybe you want to work with us. So until next time, in 2 weeks, this is Corey Harlock with Key Hire Solutions. Thanks for listening.